There's so much more to the story than I ever thought.
What's interesting is yesterday you said, okay, I think I'm kind of over this. I feel like I've had too much information, burn out on it. But the Britney versus Spears new documentary, you think sort of reignited interest and empathy for her?
I think so, yeah.
You did a little viewing last night, too. The topic du jour, which is Britney Spears.
Yeah, I don't know why I've been just deep diving into this. I watched the New York Times documentary, Controlling Britney Spears, on Monday.
Mhm.
Then yesterday, Britney versus Spears was released. And oh my gosh, there's so much more to the story than I ever thought.
What's interesting is yesterday you said, okay, I think I'm kind of over this. I feel like I've had too much information, burn out on it. But the Britney versus Spears new documentary, you think sort of reignited interest and empathy for her?
I think so, yeah, because first of all, you're getting a different perspective. You're getting to hear from that Sam, what's his name, Lutfi or Lufty? Sam Lutfi, who was her manager for a while. You're getting to hear from that photographer, Adnan Ghalib, who became her boyfriend at one point. You're hearing from one of the documentarians who is a journalist for Rolling Stone, who she and her business partner started to make this film about Britney Spears before all this stuff started surfacing.
Oh.
But the Rolling Stones writer actually had a part in trying to help her get out of this conservatorship. And she started trying to act as an ally and as a good Samaritan to help her out. Oh my gosh. So Britney Spears had attempted to appoint her own lawyer 2 times before. And once, like I said, was helped by this filmmaker. Once when the temporary conservatorship took effect okay, so that was one time.
Okay.
Then another time in 2009. And they're supposed to give her a 5-day notice if this conservatorship is going to take place. And they never did. They had checked on the paperwork because there's leaked documents in this documentary.
Mm-hmm.
They had checked dementia as the reason for the conservatorship. So clearly, having checked that box, which is probably a technicality given choices, she doesn't have the capacity to appoint her own lawyer.
Who gets the power to check that box? I get it. If you're dealing with someone who has some level of a mental health emergency or mental instability, or if they technically did have dementia, but that's a weird, messy transfer of power there to even have the right to check the box to then start all of the things that follow up in this really restrictive conservatorship.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess her father and the lawyer, and then the judge checks off on it. And then they have these people evaluating her. But when you watch this documentary, the feeling I got from it was when you listen to her side of the story, which you hear in bits and pieces from voice messages and some friends that she's worked with. She's written a letter before that she was asked to have read on the air when Kevin Federline did an interview for one of the tabloids. I don't know if it was People or something like that, but he did this interview and she wanted to tell her side of the story. Like, keep in mind, remember we all saw her breakdown?
Sure.
And chasing the paparazzi. If you saw how many paparazzi would go after her on a day, I'm talking 100 of them swarming her car when she was taking away in an ambulance. They were hanging on to the back of the ambulance trying to snap pictures inside the window of her being taken away. That would set anybody over the edge.
Particularly, if you're already dealing with something really heavy, and then imagine going through something super crappy and you have wonderful support around you. It's still super crappy, but luckily you're wonderfully supported.
Right.
Imagine her.
Yeah.
Eyes of the world.
So she has what we saw as a breakdown, right? Her side of the story is she was forced to divorce Kevin Federline. She went to his house one day and he wouldn't see her and the kids. So she was like, he has no interest in us. Her family was like, all right, you need to divorce him because he's going to divorce you. So when all that happens and then he gets custody of the children, he was smoking pot at 5 o'clock in the morning, according to her story. And then she became painted as the unstable one. Well, clearly, when she locks herself in the bathroom with one of her kids, any mother would have had a breakdown when nobody's listening to what she sees as the reality of the situation, but they're turning it on her. I would have had a breakdown if I had 2 children and you were trying to get full custody of them and you're the one who's smoking pot at 5 o'clock in the morning and being the irresponsible parent, but now I'm being painted that way. Of course, you're going to have some kind of mental breakdown. I mean, there's so much to it. I encourage people to go and listen if you're interested in this story, because there's so much more to it than meets the eye.
The most important question.
Okay.
How long is the documentary Britney versus Spears?
An hour and 33 minutes.
Oh, no. It's like they made it for us.
Yeah, I know.
That's what we like about documentaries. A one-off documentary, they know how to do it with time.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to give too much more away, but I would say it's worth checking out, because like that Sam Lutfi guy, he was made out to be a scapegoat.
Oh, they made him look like a monster.
And
That's part of the reason why Jamie, I think, had the power to get a conservatorship, because he said, look at these people that are manipulating my daughter who doesn't have the capacity to help herself, like Sam Lutfi.
Right.
Because he was like, I don't know anything about the guy other than what they painted, which was just monstrous.
Really? So they interview him and he's like, here's the deal. They're saying I'm chopping up these medications and giving them to her. He goes, she drug tested 20 times. Why was it never flagged? She's never failed a drug test.
So does he clear his name?
He says his piece, but I don't know if he clears his name, but he says, when you have somebody, why would I be drugging the most famous woman in the world at this moment and thinking that I'm going to get away with that? You call the police if you think that's going to happen. The police never knocked on his door. He goes, you call the police, you call the FBI, you don't call TMZ. And that's what they were doing, creating this narrative around her. And
it feels like there's reason to believe him, right? A guy who's just like, look, I'm out of this and I'm just going to tell it like it is. And then I'm going on my merry way.
Yes. He was like, I don't need this, so there is a lot more to the story than meets the eye, but I would tell you more, but I encourage you to go and see it. We got to take a break when we come back.
By the way, next week, Dancing with the Stars, it's Britney Spears night. So you can watch that and get all caught up if you have all the feels about Britney.